In your experience and based on your testing, do MRIs and CT scans always show the damage to the brain?
No. The rule of thumb is that an MRI something has to be this big, like the size of your pinky fingernail, in order for an MRI to pick it up. And sometimes, because like you said, they're taking slices, if the lesion falls in between a slice, it can be missed. It's less likely to be missed with repeated MRIs. But the problem with brain injuries is that the injury is on a microscopic, it's on a cellular level. So if you think about brain cells they're like neurons, okay, that's a brain cell. And this is the axon or the body, and then there's these little dendrites that come out, and they don't totally connect with the next neuron. There's a space in between there. And that's where neurotransmitters come in. Neurotransmitters are chemical bridges that allow the electrical stimulation to go down one neuron and jump that bridge and stimulate the next neuron. So when you're doing something like remembering your phone number, right, probably 50,000 of these neurons are firing in a second, in order to, for you to retrieve that phone number. What happens in a head injury is that there's these neurons get pulled apart. They get twisted and they get pulled apart. So now the space, the gap, the synapse between the neurons is too big for those chemical bridges to work. And that's why you have slower information processing. That's why you have people who can't find the right word to express themselves, because it's sort of reaching a dead end. The other thing about, the injuries to the brain that the MRI doesn't pick up or the CAT scan, is that it may not pick up like micro hemorrhages, like when little tiny blood vessels get broken, the capillaries. And, I just wanted to point out that, we talked about the skull sort of encasing the brain, but the skull is not a smooth surface on the inside. What happens is that there are these little bony protrusions or on the inside, so that when the brain gets shaken back and forth like this, it's rubbing up against those protrusions, and it's causing, little capillaries to break, and that's also affecting, Now, if it's a major blood vessel, then you're going to find a collection of blood, and that's going to be visible on the MRI. But if it's minor, as it often is, that's not going to be. So that's why, I tell people all the time, think about it in terms of structure and function. They're not the same things. Conversely, I've had people with huge, like slow-growing brain tumors that would basically wipe out their left frontal lobe, the size of a lemon. And on my testing, I couldn't find any functional impairment, because the guy was really bright, and this brain tumor was a slow-growing type. It might have been growing for 15 years, and it allowed him, because it was slow-growing, to begin to use his left frontal lobe to do things that the right frontal lobe, to use his right frontal lobe to do things that the left frontal lobe would normally do. So yeah, structure and function are two different things.